Hey everybody, how are you? And welcome to the Storm Writing. Today I'm going to read to you a story from my article or my post or from my newsletter entry known as Going East and Teaching English. You know what? I just have to call them stories. Today I'm going to read to you a story. All my life I was an absolutely terrible communicator. I'm going to live edit this one. Sorry that I'm going to live edit it, so it's going to be a little bit annoying. I was an absolutely terrible communicator, but now that's changing. So all my life, I was an absolutely terrible communicator, but now that's all changing. I have a better command of the language thanks to my experience teaching English online. Okay. In 2021, after living in the States for 20 years, I moved back to the country in which I had grown up. Very little had changed, by the way. 2 years later, I started teaching English full-time on an online platform. With both of these actions, I had evacuated my comfort zone and put myself in situations I wouldn't normally have chosen. As a result, I became much more resilient and learned so much more about my past. I also became notorious, at least at night. My old handle was going to be Notorious at Night, or something like that. Okay. My old life had come to ruins due to patterns beyond my comprehension. All I knew was that no matter what I tried, or who I tried to collaborate with, people would eventually turn on me and against my plans. Work opportunities, creative endeavors, and even volunteer work became corrupted by others' distrust of me. Sometimes I felt like a man on fire, burning slowly for the years. It wasn't in my nature to store up anger. I'm a Cancer after all, and we love the water. But there I was grappling with the mistreatment and misunderstandings coming from every direction. And I was constantly trying to douse the flames and cool myself down, or else say something I'd regret. I was in the middle of a storm, and only a departure for another storm would allow me to see the storm for what it was. In 2022, teaching English was the last thing I wanted to do for work. I couldn't write, and I didn't like it much. In high school or college, you couldn't have paid me to write a well-worded essay. Since my youth, I considered language to be an artificial or socially constructed experience, while drawing, sculpture, and painting were authentic forms of mental honesty. Drawing was my way of turning inward and shining a creative light on my inner soul. It was, in a sense, my healing. Language was always the opposite, my weakness. I had felt that making art brought integrity while language invited deceit. Even now I empathize with my previous stance. I'm a visual artist and I have a visual mind, so if I wanted to tell a story, I'd use pictures. The curse of pictures is that they can be interpreted differently by different people. Even as a picture is worth 1,000 words, a picture is just one moment in the telling of a story and nothing more. And this is why we create films. Mankind needed moving pictures because single pictures would not suffice our storytelling needs. To understand a story, we needed to be taken back through time. Back then, I was an artist, one who made images caught in frame. Now I have to tell you a story that's very specific. So I'm going to try to set images in motion through the power of language. This is my intro to my memoir, by the way. I want to take a moment right here to say, first of all, that I'm the Storm Writer on Substack.com, thestormwriter.substack.com. And that name came from the concept I'm thinking of in this story. A time in my life where I was in a lot of trouble and getting a lot of negative energy or getting a lot of attacks from different directions. And I couldn't really see what was going on or couldn't really understand what was going on. I had a sense, but I didn't have the full picture. So I decided the best thing to do was get up and go. And I shut everything down and left. And that's what this is. That's what this is. That's what I'm trying to get at here. All right. You can subscribe to my Substack. You can send me messages. You can like things. I would love to have participation. Please be social and push all the buttons. If you go to the article, you're going to see some images along with this writing piece. You're going to see some images from my artwork. You're going to see some images from. You're going to see a few images that I've put up in association with this piece, including something related to cowboys. All right, let's get into it. Back to the story. I distrusted words. I felt they were inherently intellectualistic, and I used them to create false impressions. Intellectualistic, and used to create false impressions rather than tell the truth. Now I will use words to be honest, and I'll represent my experiences as faithfully as possible, because I suspect that I'm not the only person that something like this has happened to. I think that my words will help others who've struggled with addiction, with being misunderstood, those who've been bullied and tried in the court of public opinion. It may help those deceived and lied to by loved ones, all while trying to recover, to become the best versions of themselves they can be, and find or make meaning out of life. All right, excuse the dead space here. I'll take that out later. Okay, and to find or make meaning out of life. Okay, I like it. My mother, of all people, persuaded me to start teaching English online. I hated the idea. I also thought that I'd stop listening to my mother. I listened to my mother twice in my life, and she'd been right both times. The first time was back in 2001, when she told me to cut loose my then girlfriend, who was playing games and running circles around me. And then in 2022, she told me to try teaching English because I needed some pocket money. And she was right both times, which is a better batting average than any mother of a grown son needs to have. Okay, I'm going to say that again, but first I'm going to take something out. Listen to my mother twice in my life, let that alone. Then I say, and she was right both times, which is a better batting average than any mother of a grown son needs to have. What was your relationship to language while growing up? You can tell me. How do you feel about language and communication? Did you embrace it or reject it, and how? English is a floating city. English is a floating city. All right. It's interesting that I didn't distrust other languages, only English. Perhaps it's the way English was forced upon me, as part of a hegemonic academic structure that didn't seem to care about me. Once I started teaching the language, I began to see all its parts. And any language has mechanisms and structures that deliver meaning. If a language is a machine, English is a giant cruise ship or an aircraft carrier. You can siege cities with it, or you can throw a great party. Either way, English has a million unique parts that perform different functions, and if one of them is misunderstood, the rest falls apart. By the end of the first year, I had my reins on the English language, and I was able to write it through all kinds of terrain. I even took a liking to a type of English called cowboy lingo, and its cousin, bluegrass lingo. During my sessions, I teach my Eastern European students cowboy slang, and they would love it. I can't blame them. It's by far the best version of English to come out of the Americas, because it's rich in character and hope. It's all about what might, could, what ought to be. Cowboy English looks perpetually westward, dreaming of space and freedom. Something I've spent my whole life doing in one way or another. Teaching English taught me to write, and I learned things about the English language that I never knew. Once I better understood its structure, its anatomy, and how to use it, it stopped being so intimidating. I credit the English teaching experience with enabling me to write this book that I'm writing now. I'm writing a memoir. Who isn't writing a memoir? Okay, I want to add something to this. Okay, this is beautiful. Okay, end of writing. But I'm going to add something here and say, by the way, so teaching English taught me to write. I learned things about the English language that I never once knew. Once I better understood its structure, its anatomy, and how to use it, I stopped being so intimidating. So I credit the English language experience with turning me into a writer. All right, by the way, top 5 best Westerns that you have to watch You have to watch this if you are becoming an older man. I'm sure it's great for women too, but I can't speak to the experience. Uh, it's all about what might, could, and what ought to be. And if you're feeling like you want to connect with that feeling of going west or exploring, for the explorer in you. Okay. One, Dances with Wolves, Kevin Costner. For sure, one of the best out there. One of the best westerns. Two, you have to watch The Last of the Mohicans. All right, I need a top five. Three, we're going to go with Legends of the Fall. All right, now just for clarification here, I'm not talking about the old timey classics. Legends. I'm not talking about the old timey classics. I'm not talking about Clint Eastwood. I'm talking about modern epics, circa 1990s and 2000s. Um, After The Magnificent Seven and after Clint Eastwood and after the old westerns, some of the masterpieces, right? Okay, Dances with Wolves, Last of the Mohicans, Legends of the Fall. You're not gonna like this, but I really like Far and Away with Tom Cruise. Far and Away has to go in the group. I think so. I think it's probably the fifth on the list. What's going to be the fourth? The bad news is I haven't seen. Uh, there's the other one with Brad Pitt. It's there's two with Brad Pitt. Legends of the Fall with Brad Pitt. Uh, let's find it. No, Brad Pitt wasn't in the other one. Who was in the other one? All right. Top five best westerns to watch for the explorer in you. Dances with Wolves, The Last of the Mohicans, Legends of the Fall, Tombstone, and Far and Away. And I haven't seen A River Runs Through It, so I can't speak to that yet. All right, so Dances with Wolves is with Kevin Costner. And Kevin Costner is just phenomenal in it. And the woman who plays the love interest is also phenomenal. And the acting is phenomenal. And the portrayal of the Native Americans is reasonable. Definitely a reasonable portrayal. The Last of the Mohicans is with Daniel Day Lewis. That's the quite the film. Okay, that's one you really have to watch. By the way, Kevin Costner also does a version of Tombstone, where he plays. Let's see. Well, he plays that famous lawman. What's his name? In Tombstone. I'm going to get it out right now. I know it. Doc Holliday? Nope. It's come on, James what? James Virgil and Wyatt Earp. No, no. What's the first one? Wyatt Earp. Okay, he plays Wyatt Earp. Okay, I'm duh, obviously. So Kevin Costner does play Wyatt Earp in the show or the film Wyatt Earp. So you can catch that one too. But Dances with Wolves is a classic. The Last of the Mohicans is a classic with Daniel Day Lewis. You want to see Daniel Day Lewis in something else? You can watch him in Gangs of New York, which isn't really a Western, but feels very Westerny, very Westernish. And it's set in the mid 1800s. So, yeah. Legends of the Fall with Brad Pitt in it and a lot of great actors. Anthony Hopkins is in this as well. That's a phenomenal film. Tombstone you have to watch because Tombstone it was actually done by Disney, but it features, let's see, who does it feature? Who plays, what's his name? Kirk Douglas? Yeah, Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell is in it. Val Kilmer's in it. Um, the old guy who's in the westerns is in it. Forget his name now. And it's a really good movie if you want to get a sense of the Tombstone story. It's a famous story with Wyatt Earp. And then watch Far and Away with Tom Cruise. It's different. It starts in Ireland, and it's about them making their way from Ireland to America, and it's about a man who has no land, dreaming of one day having some land. That's the only thing he really wants in the world is to have land to call his own, and it's also a love story. So, anyways, that's what it's all about. Far and Away. So those are good ones. I haven't seen A River Runs Through It yet. I'm sure it'll be on the list, but I haven't seen it, so I can't speak to it. And those are the movies I saw, and some other movies in the Western genre that inspire me when I need to feel that cowboy feeling. I need to connect with my 40s and my middle age and my feelings that life was good, life was better 200 years ago than it is now, which I'm sure it's not really. But I need to connect with that feeling sometimes. Okay, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed. See you on the next one.